Thanks for joining us for the Executive Series. Today I'm speaking with Dr. Jackie Fairley, who is the CEO of Starpharma. Jackie, great to talk to you again.
Nice to be here.
Now, for people who aren't familiar with the work that the company does, why don't you tell us a little bit more about the dendriban technology that you work on?
Yeah, so Starpharma is founded on a technology base called dendrimers, a kind of polymers. And we use them in two different ways. Both of them are in the pharmaceutical space. One is for a group of products in the VivaGel portfolio, and that's a really exciting anti-infective application for a condition called bacterial vaginosis, which has had some really exciting news both commercially and also on the regulatory front. And the other application of our technology is to make existing drugs better, so to deliver drugs in a way which is both more effective and safer for patients.
Indeed. So on the VivaGel side of things, you've signed some really important agreements in recent times, but most notably with Mundipharma. They're probably best known for their betadine brand of products. How important is that as far as Starpharma's movement into the future?
So with the VivaGel product, the VivaGel BV product, we've appointed Mundipharma as our marketing partner across much of the world. We did two separate deals, one which incorporated Asia, South America, the Middle East and Africa. And then more recently, a couple of weeks ago, we announced a second deal with Mundipharma for Europe, Russia and Eastern Europe. So those two deals together are a very important commercial milestone for us, because they really paved the way for the launch of this product and the marketing of VivaGel BV across more than 150 countries. And so we're really getting to a very exciting stage of the company's life.
So in terms of VivaGel, when the rubber hits the roads through these agreements, what sort of impact are you expecting it to make?
Well, this will be the launch of the product globally. It's already approved all throughout Europe and approved in Australia, and we're looking forward to approval in the US and elsewhere. And across, we haven't got formal guidance out, but the market opportunity for VivaGel or for BV products for treatment is $750 million globally. So it's a large and significant market. And the VivaGel BV product, because it can be used to prevent the condition as well as treat it, it's also available for sale into a new category, which is the prevention of recurrence. So these are very large markets, hundreds of millions of dollars, and this is an Australian innovation developed all the way through in Australia. So it's very exciting to be at the cutting edge of that kind of development.
Indeed. And in significant terms, you're moving down the path of getting FDA approval. Where are you in the arc of that story? So
I think when we spoke last, we had been granted fast track status, which is a fairly rare thing for a company or for a product to be granted, and that's because this is a novel product for an important condition. That we made our submission, or started to make our submission late last year, completed it in April, and just yesterday, in fact, we had confirmation from the FDA that it's gone through the initial phase and moved into the next phase of review. So we're now looking forward to approval of the product in approximately 6 months. So the hard work has been done in terms of putting together that massive file of data, and now that review process is advancing well.
Now, let's talk about the depth side of things, your delivery technology. Has that been on the sidelines while you've been focusing on the commercialisation of VivaGel?
No, in fact, the two things have been running in parallel. Commercialisation-wise, I guess a lot of our efforts have been focused on the negotiation of those VivaGel agreements, without a doubt. But in parallel with that commercialisation activity, our programs in DEP have continued. So both our internal programs, we now have 2 in the clinic. So we commenced recently a clinical trial in the UK with DEP carbazitaxel. We already have DEP docetaxel, which is in phase 2. So we've now got 2 clinical candidates running in trials in Europe. And towards the end of this year, we hope to kick off another clinical trial with DEP irinotecan. So we're looking forward to having 3 clinical candidates. So there's been a lot of activity continuing in those. And in addition to that, on the partnered side of the program, we've got 3 separate programs running with AstraZeneca, all of them in oncology, and we've been seeing some really interesting results out of those programs.
Because ultimately, given the potential success of this delivery platform, which basically improves the efficacy of a range of drugs, you could actually be faced with almost a bottleneck situation in terms of deciding on what to focus on.
That's true, although our technical involvement is in the early phases of those arrangements, the building blocks, if you like, putting together the initial sort of structures. Once we get beyond that stage, then essentially our partners like AstraZeneca take over the scale-up of the product and take the products into the clinic and pay for all of the development. So we're involved at that early phase, and they have a commercial relationship with us through the licenses that we've granted them to enable them to use our technology. But the bottleneck is really only the early phase. I mean, we have continued to hire new chemists to work in those areas, and we can continue to hire more. So I don't see that as being I don't see it as being an issue, but actually the heavy lifting is done by our partners typically, as opposed to us needing to do it internally.
Indeed. So when you look out over the next 6 months, what are going to be the important milestones for Starpharma?
Well, in the near future, I expect that we'll announce the completion of the global marketing arrangements, so a US deal. The US market is typically about 55% of the world pharmaceutical market, so it's a large and important market. So signing of a commercial deal, the regulatory approval that we referred to earlier is an important milestone, and I think we will be one of a handful of Australian companies that have ever achieved such a thing. So even to have had the tick so far of the initial phase of the review is a huge achievement and an important milestone. And then following on from that, the launch of the VivaGel BV product in Europe, in the US, and around the world, really. The regulatory activities are already underway across a whole range of markets. The launch of the product in Australia, and on the DEP side of things, completion of our phase 2 trial for depdocetaxel, moving from phase 1 into phase 2 for carbazitaxel, and commencing trials of depirinotecan and some of our partnered programs. So there's still plenty going on.
There's always a lot going on. Jackie, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
And thanks for joining us for the Executive Series.